Today, we're going to be talking about some things that I didn't expect here in Sweden. So let's jump into it. The first thing is definitely the longer summer days. Now we're into summer, we're up in the north of Sweden, and the days are just endless. I don't feel like people talk about this enough because when I moved to Sweden, I was aware of the darker day, the winter, and all of those things. That it was cold, it was dark most of the year, is what everyone said, which I don't think is true. But nobody really talked about the long summer days that you get here in Sweden, especially if you travel further up north. The sun almost never sets. I really enjoy these long summer days, and I really feel that people don't talk about it enough. Like I said, it's more dramatic to talk about the darker winter days and how cold it is when you're talking about these Nordic countries. And I don't think people give it enough credit for their long summer days. You can sit out chatting and enjoying the weather and the sunshine for hours and hours, well into the early mornings. And I think it's such a fantastic thing here in Sweden, especially something we look forward to every single year. The next one I wasn't expecting at all is just how much sweets the Swedes eat. I mean, it is just crazy. They have a special day, lördagsgodis, set aside for sweets. I mean, how many countries have that? Do any of the other Nordic countries have that? The Swedes culture around lösgodis, which means loose candy, is just unbelievable. There are thousands of different types of godis here. It is just beautiful to see the array of colors and all of that. But that means the Swedes eat a lot of candy. So I did some research, and the Swedes eat 14 to 15 kilos of godis, sweets, a year. Now, not everybody, obviously, but as a general rule, we eat so much candy here. And then, especially for Easter, you've got these Easter eggs filled with candy. You've got candy on your Christmas buffet. You've got, like I said, candy every Saturday. It's not something I expected. It is not a cultural thing in England or Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, I don't even think we had that many sweets. We ate mostly chocolate, but it is just mind boggling. And if you do move to Sweden or come here to visit, you will have to go to one of the candy stores. I mean, I know other countries have candy stores like that, but I just don't know of any other country that has a special day set aside just for candy. Sometimes it's a good thing because then you don't eat candy for the rest of the week. But I mean, it's so delicious. It's so difficult to abstain from all of the candy, but it was something that I really wasn't expecting here in Sweden. Next one is the monopoly on alcohol. I had absolutely no idea that in Sweden you can only buy alcohol at the Systembolaget. It's not something I knew prior to moving to Sweden. Like I said, I lived in England. I mean, in England you can go anywhere and buy alcohol, but here in Sweden, if you want to buy really strong alcohol, you have to go to Systembolaget. They have the monopoly on all of the alcohol here in Sweden. I know a lot of people speak about this online as well. I think it's a really great thing. This way they can control the consumption of alcohol. You can buy beer at the grocery store, but as long as it's below 3.5%. Anything above that, you have to go to the Systembolaget. The Systembolaget is closed on a Sunday and most public holidays here in Sweden. And it really is a system to curtail the amount of alcohol consumption. The alcohol in all of the Systembolagets, I understand, is the same price. There's no difference if you go to a Systembolaget in Stockholm or somewhere else. It really is the same price because the idea is not to create profit, but it is to curtail the amount of alcohol that people are able to consume. Now, you obviously have to show ID, and it really is very, very strict. And I'd heard a lot about Swedes drinking schnapps. They had a high alcohol consumption. I had no idea that a place like Systembolaget was created, in fact, in 1955 to make sure that the Swedes were only allowed to buy very strong alcohol from one place, which I think is a great thing. And I think the law around this started in 1905, but I know the Systembolaget started in 1955. And since then, if you want to have strong liquor in Sweden, you need to go between a specific time to your nearest Systembolaget and make sure you don't go on a Sunday because they're closed. Next thing that I didn't know about was Jantelagen. Jantelagen just means that everybody is equal. The idea that everyone should be equal, and if you are doing well, or you are rich or popular, or you're very successful, the idea is that you do not show it off. Now, there'll be two camps to this, but this is something that I didn't know. I didn't know about this rule when I came to Sweden. I've come from England and in Sri Lanka, where there's a huge discrepancy between the rich and the poor. Everybody talks about it, everybody shows off their money, and in Sweden, you're not supposed to do it. Now, do people do it? I'm sure they do. But as a rule, you're not allowed to be sort of flamboyant and show off your wealth or your success. These small things in the culture here in Sweden are very, very important to the Swedes. If you really want to move to Sweden and integrate into the culture, I would really encourage you to be attuned to all of these small things that are very, very important to the Swedes, like Jantelagen. We do have sports cards and all of those things here, but you're not going to see it in the same amount that you would see in a place like California or in Italy. You're not going to see as many here in Stockholm, although we do have them, because of this unwritten law that people should all be equal. You don't want to make anybody feel less than. So this is something that I had no idea about Sweden, and something I wish I knew really before I moved here. Not that I'm a flamboyant person, but just because it is so important to the Swedes that it is something I think I should have known or tried to learn about before I moved here to Sweden. And finally, the last one is the Fika culture. Who knew? I had absolutely no idea what Fika was, what the Fika culture was. It was so huge here in Sweden. I mean, I would think Fika is one of the biggest cultural things that you can do in Sweden. People have at least 1 to 3 fikas a day. Sometimes offices and companies have a special Fika assigned time. When you go for courses, they call it a Fika break. Now, we do have these sort of breaks in other countries as well, but not to the same level as we do in Sweden. A Fika here could be a baked good and a coffee. It could be at work. You could meet a friend for Fika. You could meet a date for Fika. You could have Fika at home. Some people have Fikas every weekend in the afternoon. It will be a cinnamon bun and a coffee. Is it the most healthy thing to do? No, it's not. It is such a huge, I mean, it is huge. I don't even know how to explain it, how big the Fika culture here in Sweden is. Something that brings everybody together. What I love most about Fika is the fact that you can make it as extravagant or as simple as you like. So if you invite somebody to your home for Fika, it's like in England, you'd invite them over to afternoon tea, but here you would invite them for a Fika. But instead of afternoon tea with small sandwiches and scones and cream, you just have a baked good and coffee. Nobody will be offended that you just gave them a cinnamon bun and coffee, because that's what Fika is. It's a coming together of people to take a break, to relax, to enjoy each other's company, and just to be. Something that was new to me, and that's why Sweden has a lot of coffee houses. You'd be hard pressed to find, well, it has been better. Since I moved 15 years ago, it was difficult to find Starbucks and all of these sort of coffee chains, because you had a lot of these small coffee houses, especially in places like Gamla Stan and all of these small cafes in Stockholm, because the Fika culture is such a big part of the Swedish culture. We've got loads of these small coffee shops, even up here in the north of Sweden. We've got a little cafe that we could visit and have a Fika. So it really is a big, big tradition here in Sweden, and something that I wish I knew before. Okay, let's do it like this. All the Swedes watching, let me know in the comments below, which of these things is your favorite thing about Sweden. It could be Jantelagen, or it could be the fact that Systembolaget runs all of the alcohol. And I want to know which is your least favorite, because that could be some people's least favorite. They can find it really annoying that they can only go certain time to buy alcohol. Please please leave me a comment in the description box below telling me which one's your favorite and which one is your least. Thank you so much for watching. As always, my name is Shalika Marker, and I'll see you in the next one.